Hello everyone, Jess Claire here, coming to you live. Curious, the Jess Claire show. I'm just going to get this up so I can see you guys jumping on. If you are jumping on, please do say hello. For the first time, I'm only live in Raw, Reel, and Amplify, which I never do because anyway, if you are jumping on, please do say hello. I'm going to go in here, see who is jumping on. This is a very interesting topic. Who have we got here? We got Taylor Stewart, Addie, Jess Palmer. Hello, please do say hello. Leave me a message. Isn't it weird? It does this weird thing. Okay, sup, lovely. Oh, what an interesting day. I've really been exploring this topic myself all day. And just before I go any further, we are going to do the draw for the Hello Jared. We are going to do a draw tonight for the social media games on Wednesday. So I will get back to that. Amazing topic. I think so too. I've spent all day exploring this myself. I did not want to come on this live tonight. I find this topic myself very confronting. I was so close to cancelling it because there's so much in everything there, and I didn't even realize how much. Hello, Marilyn. So again, if you've got any questions on this, I really do want to explore them and answer them with you. But I'm going to start by making an assertion. When I looked at this and I looked at, what my intention for this was tonight, the intention was to explore miscommunication, blame, and denial as if it were this bubble between us. Like I'm in a bubble and whoever I'm speaking to is in a bubble. And how do you pop the bubble so you can kind of be there with each other, right? That's how I see it. I'd be curious to hear what you and how you might see that. And I want to leave you guys with what I want, which is like, if I could just sprinkle fairy dust over the whole of the world, is just this level of compassion to have for each other during arguments and miscommunication, right? And realistically, I say that because I want that level of compassion provided to me. And I notice that's what I miss is I really yearn for a level of compassion given to me when I'm in an argument. So I wanted to talk about that. And I came up with these 4 key points, and I'm going to do this assertion, right? Hello, Haley. Hey, Trish. It's so cool. I'm actually in Raw for the first time, just on its own. It's so weird. I'm not across 4 billion platforms. So I get to kind of just fully unleash here. That's what I really wanted to do. This is my assertion. Healthy relationships live only when we can accept of another person's experience. And without that, we will continue to stay in a state of blame, shame, and denial. If we do not have 2 people in some sort of, and this is, it's an assertion, right? It's just from my own experience. And I would be happy to be wrong. But if you do not have 2 people committed to some level of compassion and understanding with each other, you just cannot avoid blame, denial, miscommunication. It's just like, if one person is like, no, it's all you, and this is my experience, and then the other person is compassionate and loving and takes it all on, then you've still got one person in a bubble and another person open. Unless there are 2 people, and it can start with one, but unless there are 2 people willing to pop the bubble, can you really have healthy communication? Will you be able to bypass or break down this miscommunication, blame, shame, denial? I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are. So I'm going to give you an example, right? Because I looked at this for myself. I had this argument on the weekend, and, you know, this person was just like telling me over and over and over how they felt about some behavior of mine. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I just didn't get it. I just really didn't get it. And with all the training that I've had, I just then repeated it back. And I was like, okay, I really get that this is how you feel. You know, so there was this element of me having all this, you know, doing all this training, but what I wasn't doing, I was hearing it. And internally, I was not listening. I was like in my bubble. And I didn't want to hear that someone thought that the way that I was being was, you know, righteous, or that I was making them feel like they weren't good enough. I couldn't hear it. In fact, upon reflection at the time, I was just like bunkered down, didn't want to even acknowledge it. And yet appeared on the outside as if I was fine and I was saying all the right things and I was calm and I was collected. But realistically, I wasn't letting any of that communication penetrate or pop that bubble, so I was open. Except at the time, I didn't even know that this was the case. I didn't even know I was doing it. And then upon reflection, you know, 24 hours later, I could really sit and look at it and go, I didn't hear a word that was being said. And the more that I did that, the more this person was like trying so hard to have me get it. And so it had me think, you know, is there really anything like miscommunication or blame or denial? Or is this someone really, really trying hard to penetrate these walls? You know, I'm very curious about that. Like, what is your experience? Like you said there, Hayley, it happened to me, ended a 23-year relationship. That's awful. Like, and tell me, what do you think actually was the end of it? Was it just two people that continued to butt their head up against the wall? Okay, Taylor. Mine is a 2K deep brick wall, not a bubble. I would say maybe mine is too. It leads to so much frustration. I mean, that is absolutely what I experienced on the weekend. It was like the frustration between two people was like, there was just like, could not. So how do we get that? Pop? How do we get that 2K deep brick wall to pop? How do we get that frustration to dissipate? I mean, when I really looked at this, I don't even know that this person was blaming me, but it definitely seemed that way to me. And I was like really protective and I couldn't, you know, you can blame it on the energy. It could be exactly, but and you're in the middle of those things and you're having a miscommunication and that person is saying you're doing this and you know, that other person's like, no, I mean, I know my experience is when someone is like, you don't do this, you don't do this. It's like my brain has all these answers for why they're saying what they're saying. They do the same thing and I just throw it back. Excuse me. So it's like a baseball match. It's like, but how do you interrupt this? Because it's only now 24 hours later that I realized that I was not listening to a level I wasn't. It was almost like a blackout. Absolutely nailed it. Say more about that, Hayley. What have I absolutely nailed? And yeah, Marilyn, why are we avoiding frustration? Well, that's actually a really good point. It's how someone raises it with you, Trish. It is. It really is. And yet I don't think we're really taught how to raise this stuff with each other. I mean, it's not easy to say, oh, by the way, when I'm around you, I don't experience any feeling really good. And I mean, my whole thing is that, I want people to be left feeling really great around me. And then someone's coming and saying, I don't feel great around you at all. And isn't then the thing to do to listen and to accept and to kind of allow it to go, wow, this person doesn't feel great around me, and to allow it. But sometimes you just can't allow that. Like I couldn't. And I was like, this is getting worse and worse and worse. I even noticed before with my housemate, I was upset about something that she did. And I noticed I was so upset. And she was great. She listened to everything I said. She listened and listened and listened. And it was even like I needed her to, it was like, it wasn't enough for her to get it and to really feel me and to really see me. It was like I wanted her to feel bad. And I noticed that. I was like, is this what we're doing? Is there some need that we have to make people feel shame, to feel better? Because I noticed myself doing it. What is being said here? If it comes out as a label or blame, then yes, you'll feel the flight or flight. And I did. I know on the weekend, I was fight. I don't do flight. I do fight. I'm not great. If you ever try to win an argument with me and you start blaming me, you will lose. And I'm not proud of that, by the way. It's just my flight or flight response. And it's just, I'm not a big fan of it. So I put in boundaries for myself to save you from me, to save you guys, my friends, my family. And what is this? Set intention for the conversation. What outcome do you want? I think, Taylor, what you're pointing to here, do you love this person? Do you love yourself enough to actually listen to them? And I think what you're pointing here is exactly what I came to. I mean, when I wrote this down, I was like, we're all doing this. We're all not listening. As far as I can see, with every relationship, whether I love them or we're close or we're not, this seems to happen. We go here, Deanne. Thank you. Thanks. Is it Diane? Diane, thanks for contributing. We need to be aware of our egos and let them go. It's about that being spiritually high. I know, right? And how do you do that though? And you're in the moment. How do you drop or get spiritually higher? Like I'm always about, these practical steps. It's always like I'm looking at you in the moment. It's like a show. What do I see people do to do this getting spiritual higher? What do we do? What's this up here? Why are we afraid of blame and frustration? Exactly. What is so threatening about blame? What is it saying about us that we need to protect? People will always have different views because of different experiences. Exactly. And that's what I could see is it's like, I've now gone around and around and around in relationships. Welcome back, Jess. You're so funny. I was so hungry. I understand. You've got a lot of babies to feed, a lot of mouths to feed. We always have different experiences. Like I've studied this now in every relationship I've had. I've reflected on my own behavior, and I'm like, I don't feel great about something, and I feel the need, like I did with my housemate just before. She really upset me. Something happened, and of course, we've got the kind of relationship. I called it out, but this was like I wanted her to feel bad because I felt bad. Now, I just noticed that, right? Now, obviously, I didn't do anything about it, but it's like I noticed that I wanted her to. So do we actually really just want people to listen, be seen and heard? No, we want them to feel our pain. It's almost like that pain needs to be transferred as a release. How do we do that? How do we release that without putting it on someone else? Or do we need it to be shared? What are some of the things here? What have we got? Haley, it becomes a tug of war, ends up very defensive, and then we no longer listen. I know this is get circular, right? It's giving yourself and the other the space to be with it. Yeah. How do we do that though? What does that look like? How do we actually sit there in the moment? Now, here I am. I was so angry and frustrated, and the person I was with was so angry and frustrated, and we're having this like discussion, and she's like, you did this and you make me feel like this, and I'm like, but you make me feel like this, and we're like, do. And I just wanted her to feel my experience, and she just wanted me to feel her experience. But because we were both wanting that, we just didn't experience any of it. What do we do about that? So how in the moment? I've got a few points that I've really experienced here, I've really thought about here. But your flight was to squash down your emotions. Who wrote that? Yeah, I didn't even know I was doing it though, maybe at the time. But that leads to sanitized communication. I'm back, sorry. We need to feel liked, yes. Hello, Isabel Franklin. Are we content with ourselves? We have to be at peace with ourselves before we can be at peace with others. I found this, I find this interesting, Diane. It's a really good point. To be at peace with yourselves before you're at peace with others. Because I'd be really interested to hear what people think about this. Because as far as I can see, after pretty much doing every I was about to swear, I suppose I can because I'm in Raw now, every freaking personal development you can imagine, I am more at peace with myself than I've ever been. And I'm more okay to come on these shows and talk very openly about my own experience and own all of my behavior. But I have moments where things just still trigger me. And it's the next thing, and it's the next thing, and it's the next thing, and it's the next thing. Like, I can't avoid that I'm going to get triggered. It's not that I'm not at peace with myself, but in those moments, I'm not at peace. And I don't know, I'm curious. I actually don't think that we ever really live a life where we are fully peaceful all the time. Otherwise, the whole world wouldn't be looking for the fucking answers to enlightenment, because it doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. Enlightenment is knowing that enlightenment doesn't exist and being at peace with that for now, until you're not at peace with it. It's the difference between sympathy and empathy. Here, I feel like I want to be understood in those moments. I focus on softening and honoring myself and stay in integrity with who I choose to be, regardless of the situation. I think that's really beautiful, Jess, because it's interesting that you say that, and you stay integrity with who you choose to be. Who do you choose to be? I'd love you to share that. And softening and choosing allows resistance and emotion to dissolve to a point where I can actually communicate effectively. And I think just because I know you, Jess, I think what does help, and this is also something I've thought about, is when you are accountable to a whole lot of other people, which you are because you train coaches and you really hold a very high standard for yourself. It's like you're in a conversation, but you're not just in a conversation with that person. You're in a conversation, you got a whole lot of other people that you need to take care of and really stand for something, and you're holding space for everyone that you're also training maybe. I'd be curious to hear what you think. It needs to be shared. The hurt the recipient occurs and increase directly related to the times we've been invalidated. I think, who wrote that? It needs to be shared. Sarah, I'm tending to agree. I'm coming to the place where I actually now believe that you have to share experience. Like, you need to have an investment and I'm saying for healthy communication. I'm not saying it has to happen. I mean, it mostly doesn't, but for healthy communication and healthy relationships, you need to be willing to share the experience, which means you need to be willing to feel the hurt and the anger and the upset and the frustration of both parties that are there together in complete surrender. Ditto. Love you. Thanks, Karen. We need to work through our shit. We just do. And the shit's ongoing. It never ends. I thought I was through my shit. And then as per the weekend, I found out there's a whole lot of other shit that I need to work through. In fact, if you guys knew what went through I was crying all afternoon. My friend came over. I fell asleep on the couch outside by the fire. She fed me pizza. I had more cigarettes, even though I'm supposed to be on a cleanse, because I felt so much shame that who I am hasn't sorted my shit out by now. And so I just went back to some old ways and, just did some things that didn't serve me at all. Humans have the spectrum of experience. And it's like, I already feel like I've made myself wrong. So what I'll do is I'll just punish myself. So I took the cigarettes, I gave them to her and said, take these away from me. Totally try to be gentle. Definitely. In the way I choose to be affected by things. Yeah, be gentle. I see you, Taylor. I choose to be a wild motherfucker. Of course you do. Hello, Lorna. What have we got here? Fierce evolution, baby. Yeah. Who I choose to be is the person living in constant state of prayer. So this means choosing love over fear, the best of my ability all times. I'm always asking myself, who do you want to be? Who do you want to show up as detached from the person? I think that's beautiful, Jess. And I dare say your life experience has also sort of evolved you to a point where there's just certain things that just no longer you allow yourself to get upset. Again, you've had to feel so much, only because I know you and I know a little bit about your story. Welcome to being human. Absolutely, right? But I want to call out a few points here. Unless you're, well, that's it. Like before Diane said, come from the highest point. I mean, that's ultimately where we want to go, but I'm always looking for how do you do that? And as far as I can see, and I'd be curious, is that I've come to the point where I've realized, and I teach this in my programs around being an entrepreneur, but I think it is really relevant for personal relationships. And that is, our relationships, if you really want to be powerful in relationships and avoid a cycle of miscommunication, blame, and denial, that you really have to come from agreements, requests, and boundaries. And you agree what they are. You agree how you're going to be when you get triggered. You agree how you're going to respond. You agree. You make agreements here. And you set yourself up to win. And as far as I can see, I've got these 4 points. This is what I'm saying healthy relationships are. Firstly, they only live when we can accept the other's experience and be willing to feel it. And not just one side, but both parties equally feel. That you have to acknowledge that blame, shame, and miscommunication is actually a part of a relationship. And that acknowledge as making it out as if one person is always at fault is actually a part of what keeps human beings very lonely and contributes to mental health. So if you are in a relationship where one person is constantly adamant it's your fault, or you're always taking the blame, or you always feel as though you're having to listen and feel and see the other person, but they can't see you, I really don't think that's healthy. Again, I'm really okay, people. I think it has to be mutual. It has to be a real pursuit of both parties being seen, heard, loved, acknowledged, all of that. You know, otherwise one person's going to feel alone, and at some level there's some superiority, like you're always to blame, I'm better than you because I've got my shit together. No one's got their shit together. No one has. Anyone who says they've got their shit together, I'm like out to abolish it. No one. No, I totally agree. We may be a spiritual level, but we have to live in a world where not everyone feels the same, has the same morals. We just don't. And this is where we really need to listen to our hearts, not be distracted. You're an equal to everyone. Others think they're above sometimes, and they, to prove this, they suck you in. It's true. No one is above. I'm one of those people, Diane. I've got, you know, this intellectual way of being, and I'm so well read, and I've got all the strategies and the answers right. And I'm just a pain in the ass to argue with. And I can come across so superior, and it's not intentional. Diane, it is not intentional. It's actually a complete defense mechanism when I feel threatened. Anytime that I know that I look back and go, oh my God, I was being such a superior jerk. It's always because I'm scared, and I experienced a lot of violence when I was younger, and the way that I dealt with it was to just get really knowledgeable and talk my way out of things, right? So superiority is sometimes a big defense, and I would argue probably is always. You know, my life experience has molded me to feel this way. I have had a very upsetting moment yesterday with someone. I deeply cried, shared from a place of love. I'm committed to resonance. Yeah, it's beautiful being heard. Such a good topic for you to start cooking for. Good. Put me on your TV, Lorna. Is that what you usually do? Take on everyone's shit. No, don't do it. And I mean, let me be the example. If you've got some righteous, superior jerk in your life that makes you feel like you're not good enough, that is actually a way that I leave people feeling sometimes. You know, and it is so unintentional, and I reflect back on it and I'm like, oh, I've done it again. If I get triggered, or if I feel under attack, or if I'm threatened, that is absolutely a way that I can come across to kind of like keep myself safe. And it is really something I have to be very responsible for. You are now? Okay, good. Oh my God, yes. A relationship should be an extension of you, an extension of your soul. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think you just nailed it. And, you know, one of the things I really consider is because I can be the way that I be, and I can be superior and righteous, and I know that that's not fun for whoever's in a relationship with me, right? Is I get scared that I'm never going to have a healthy relationship, because if I continue to operate like this, who's going to want to be with me? And, you know, I'm also human, so I know that it's not going away. Like, I know that this is kind of just a way that I've wound up being, and as a result, I have to put in things in place to interrupt it, but it's going to sneak in every now and then. And I do wonder if that's what happens. I mean, I've gotten to myself to a point, I'm just very accepting of it. It's just a part of how I can be. But is there a fight going on, and there's parts of ourselves that we hate, that we know that we are, but we wish we weren't? And so we sometimes other people maybe, and I can see myself doing this, where you're almost fighting for blaming the other person, so you don't have to acknowledge this part you hate in yourself, right? I wonder if that's going on. Yeah, being scared is the reason why we project and become righteous. Absolutely. You are human, and it's okay. I am terminally human, and I think we all are. Why do you think people are attacking you when they may just be challenging you? This is a very good point, Diane. Maybe there's some work for me to do around this, because I have noticed it recently. I was in a relationship, and you know, relationships are great to bring up all your shit you didn't know was there. Your views are very important and valid, but you have to accept other views, but equally important to them. Nothing you would say would change their mind, but important part is they need to respect you have your views. So it's important you make your voice heard. Yeah. I experience being criticized. That's something that, and I find it's in the way people say things. So then I have this sort of criteria is like, can you please say it like this? And then if that person doesn't say it the way I want and I can't hear it, then I hear the criticism, and then equally they feel like they have to say it a particular way, and it's frustrating, right? So I find that very challenging in itself. I'd be interested what you guys think about that. But yeah, I'm very much standing for that. I do have a voice and I do see things a particular way. And yes, I want to listen and I want to see you and I want to feel you and I want to hear all the things, but I do really demand that back. And it's not just a one-way street for me. It's a two-way street. So Jess, I think a lot of it comes down to connecting with our essence and disconnecting from our condition. Absolutely. And I say that, you know, if we look at connecting with our essence and disconnecting from our conditioned or perceived identity, it's like you have to do the work to tell the difference. I really don't know that there is any other way of knowing your conditioned or perceived identity. You have to do the work to see it. And I think it's a constant way of work. Like I just am always looking for it. It's having the courage to be human in our relationships and being with blame, denial, and anger, platitudes and woo-woo stuff and other stuff we set up to avoid it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, you love me. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Thanks, Jess. That's beautiful. What's this? Going into a relationship with anger inside means you are bringing negativity to a relationship before it starts. You need to love yourself. You are beautiful, intelligent, caring person. Tell yourself this every day. Oh, that's beautiful. And sometimes, I know that, how would I say this? I know that I don't even realize I'm angry until I am. I'm mostly not angry, actually. I think I have moments, but all of a sudden I'm angry and here I am and I'm feeling anger. So you don't really know it until it's there. And then it's like, well, now you're there, you're in the moment and you've got this anger and you've got this experience and there's two people there. This is why I always come back to, it has to be about agreements, requests, and boundaries. And you agree that together as a couple. Love how you speak about your current struggles in real time. I've really got to the point where I'm like, if I sit here and start fucking preaching to you about the way that relationships should be, and then don't acknowledge to you that I'm like the most flawed fucking human on the planet, like that I really am grappling with. You know, I broke up with my ex-wife after 13 years and I've had a series of failed relationships ever since. And it's like, I'm really in the game of having a really amazing relationship one day and I'm fucking failing at it. And I have a very successful business and I have a very great life. I don't want people thinking, I'm not going to hide those parts. I want everyone to have a great life and be very okay with wherever they're at. So I suppose I'm going to have to do it. But thank you for acknowledging that. And I really want the world to be okay with that. I want like everyone to come out and say, I'm actually pretty shit at this. And I'm working on it, but hey, I'm good at this. I had the challenge of working through my third drawer. Holy heck, there was some embedding. That's great. That's really great. Thank you, Sarah. Does anger scare me? I think it might. I think, now I'm going to, it's a good question, Jess. I think it does. I think I grew up around a lot of anger and violence. I think that I have a lot of strategies to keep it at bay. So yeah, I do actually think that I resist anger. And so there is some work for me to do in that. And I have been doing some embodiment work, getting in the car and screaming, which is why I've been sharing it on Facebook. But excuse me. And yeah, people do preach about how relationships should be all the time. And I'm just going to call it out. And Jess, you know, I'd be interested to see what you said, because you've been in a very long-standing relationship for a long time. And I think, you know, for the relationships that I know of people that have really great relationships, they have to really work at it. And it takes periods of it not being great, and then working at it and having agreements and boundaries and making requests of each other and kind of like, you know, watering this plant for it to grow and keep growing. But for as far as I can see, a lot of people are in relationships long term and they're shit. I mean, mine was. I was in a relationship for 13 years and we were both miserable because we kept thinking we had to stay together. So it's like it takes work to be single. It takes work to be in a relationship. So it's not like easier in or out of one. I find it's actually just as difficult. You've just got different problems when you're single versus in a relationship. You know, you've got to pick the problems you want to tackle. Hello, Juliana. You can join me in the broken relationship. I reckon we should have a party. That's right. I see everything as practice. I'm getting a lot of practice in relationships. What's this? Jess Palmer. I'm asking myself this now. I think the answer is yes. What was that to? I missed it. Oh, God, what did I just do? Now I've lost you. Hang on 1 second. Okay, back. So much work, right? Humanity seems to not want to express anger. Well, let me ask you this. Do you want to express anger? It's actually, let's have a look at that, because what we tend to look out here and see is what we really see in ourselves, right? It scares me too. Yeah, I'm like, if I could just take away the one experience of everyone, it would be anger. However, that anger is actually attached to, you know, if you really look at it, it's a very important part of our design. So what have we got there? There's a level of compassion and responsibility to make it work, to feel alive individually and collectively. Some seasons suck. Exactly. Yeah. Let's do Alive on Anger, Jess. Yeah, we can do Alive on Anger. I mean, there wouldn't be no one I'd feel safer doing it with than you. And I could fully explore it. It would be great. I mean, just to give you guys an insight, my ex-wife was so unhappy with me that she, you know, and I didn't even think I was that angry, that she requested I go and do anger management. And I did that because I loved her. But it's a very sore point for me. It's like it's a big sore point for me. So I'm almost in a complete resistance to it. And I've got incredible strategies to never actually express it, or express it very alone, because I know it's important to express. What else do we have here? People preach about how relationships should be all the time. They do. I want new relationship rules. Yeah. And from what I can see, you know, if we come back to the topic about blame and denial, isn't it frustrating, and doesn't it make you angry when people are blaming you and denying their own behavior? So it's like it almost brings up that very thing that I'm resisting, right? It's like, don't get angry, but here's a whole bunch of reasons why your human is going to want to. It's quite interesting. I want to express anger. I want to express it too, and I don't know how to do it in a way that it's almost like in a way that I don't hurt people or upset people, or so I just sort of like take myself away. Anger serves a purpose. It does. It keeps us alive. It's very, very important. Yes, it can be the scariest when I'm triggered. I work on keeping it from the ones who don't deserve it and address the root of my anger. Yeah. And I'm the same, right? That's exactly what I do. I just take myself away. It's one of those expressions that it looks like no one is really good at being with. Like we're all very much in this resistance to it. I could be generalizing, so happy for people to go, no, I love anger. It's really great. I could totally just like lap it up. But I don't know anyone that experiences that. So it's definitely a big trigger for people. I can't remember the last time I've let loose with my anger. I mean, I did. I'm all about expression. So I tried out my anger on my housemate and I, we do a whole lot of things. She's like, just express. And then I expressed it and she was like, she then got really triggered, even though we were prepared for it. It brought up all this stuff for her of when she was a kid. So even when you're willing to experience it, it's like, it's just there's just something about that emotion that like collectively we really find hard to be with. So when I came, what have we concluded here? And I suppose this is what I'm saying is I want a healthy relationship. I want healthy relationships with people. And as far as I can see, it requires both parties to agree. It requires both parties to have some sort of like, I don't know how to say it any other way, but you're almost creating something together. Like, I want this kind of relationship. I go into my relationships going, I want to be treated like a goddess. And I'm going to treat you like a goddess. Like, that's a creation. It's like, I'm giving you and offering you this opportunity to have this experience of being a goddess. And I request that you treat me like a goddess, right? And then there's got to be the willingness to kind of keep up that and live up to what that is. And if one party doesn't want to, it doesn't work. It's like, I'm not aligned. So it has to be the willingness of both parties to kind of keep being in that and keep like holding the level and keep your own level of your own behavior. And that doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. I mean, as far as like, as much as I want to treat the person I'm with like a goddess all the time, it doesn't happen. So there are moments that you just have to acknowledge that did not happen. And that was not who I said I was going to be. That's blank. So, but that's like the key is it's got to have these two people bought into this, right? If it's unequal, if there's one person always to blame and one person always the good person and one person always the bad person, it's unhealthy. And there'll be this level of blame that's going one way, and then there'll be this fight going the other way, and then there'll just be either a cycle of what would seem like narcissistic abuse or victim. Even if it's not happening, the experience of it will just remain. Because one person's always feeling victimized and one person's always appearing to the victim as a narcissist, right? It has to be a level of equality. And for me, why this is important is that anyone who feels as though they can't express themselves and be seen on either side, it just leads to loneliness and not being seen and not being able to be heard and understood and felt. I'm saying is a big part of mental health. And I'm actually saying from everything I've experienced, it's a big part of why mental health is such a big problem on this planet. And blame and denial is something that we just all do. whether we like it or not. Now, I'd just like to take a moment if you guys want to have any comments on that, just to acknowledge Sky Robinson, you've just started watching. I would like to let you know that you won the competition. And so you get a free ticket to the social media games on Wednesday. Now that you've jumped on, I will post. I'll put a link in here if anyone is interested in that. Now, I just got that. What about the judgments and opinions that go into blame and anger? This is actually a very good point. You so agree with that, Lorna. I do too. I'm like, I cannot see any other way now. Excuse me. The judgments and opinions. That is also what I would say is very, very, very human. So I think I'm just going to say it. From everything I've discovered myself, we're all judgment. We're all judgy. It's like what Jess referred to before when she said part of our conditioning. I think we're conditioned to be judgy. We have just been repeatedly told things over and over and over from the moment we were born of what was right, wrong, good, bad, comparing ourselves to things that we've just born into these judgments. And those judgments are just going to be there. And so we have these judgments. And I mean, I did this on the weekend myself. I'm like, the way you're treating me is not great. You know, I'm judging. I'm constantly judging someone's behavior. And so we have to acknowledge there's a part of blaming and denying is that we're judging people, even though you could almost say what we're saying is made up. It's not even true. Our judgments aren't even real. They're just a big part of our conditioning, right? And opinions are the same. So the judgments and the opinions, the blame and the anger, it's just like always going to be there. And so again, I really would love someone to comment on this because I just keep coming back to relationships have to be a creation. They just have to be, I want this. These are my boundaries. These are my requests. Would you agree to this? And have two parties come up with something that works. And without it, all you're going to have is this humanity. The judgments, the assessments, the opinions, the blame, the blah, 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 because we're conditioned to be there. So what does anyone want to say about that? Sky. Just a matter of whether or not we admit it. Exactly. And that's actually, in my experience, the only difference between relationships that are powerful and relationships that aren't is having two parties own and admit when they're being jerks equally. Willing to see each other, feel each other, meet each other, creating agreements with each other, living up to the agreements, not living up to the agreements, and continually staying in the work of making that grow. Why are we resisting the human experience? We are our own gurus. We are. That is a very good point. We could probably do a whole nother session on that. Using our judgment is part of survival mechanism, but I believe being judgmental is a whole different thing. Okay. You know, that's a good point. We could almost do another one on that, Jess, because there's, to me, using our judgment is like discerning. Excuse me. But I see being judgmental is automatic as well. So judgment, anyway, we could get into that. It's very interesting what you said. Where am I? The bloody third drawer has so much of these learnt behaviors, and it does. It does. Using our judgment is part of survival, but I lose judgment. Yeah. We don't resist the air we breathe, so why do we resist key emotions like blame and denial? Good point. 100%. My marriage is a continual creation. It has to be, because we are not fixed. It is so true. And I really do long for that kind of relationship where someone is really in it with me, in creation and recreation and breaking down and breaking through and all of that. I do. Yeah, one of my sayings is use your judgment, but don't be judgmental. Yeah, I think what you're pointing to there is that it's a being. It's like an active. Being judgmental is active. So it's like a way of being. And I think what I can see for myself is that sometimes, I mean, I even get messed up about it because I don't like gossip. So I know that sometimes I will be, trying to discern something for myself, but I'll be what I feel like teetering on the line of gossip. Yeah, I love what Chloe said as well. So I always just am always checking in around being judgmental, using my judgment, gossip, what am I doing, what's my intention, but I'm constantly thinking about it, sometimes to the point where I don't even feel like I'm expressing myself because I'm so worried. I think we have to commit to continue creating with all relationships. It's tricky if they are resistant. Well, it's almost like I would say I've kind of gotten to the point now where I'm like, it's just not aligned. If someone doesn't want to keep creating a relationship with me, I'm not aligned. It's almost like now a boundary for me. And it's like my own agreement is that I only want relationships that are creative and willing to continue to create. And re-breaking down and re-breaking through a way of being rather than things you have to do. Yeah, it is. It's a way of being. It's I would say it's very freeing, Marilyn. I don't necessarily think it's exhausting. Emily and I, we work together, we live together. And I don't know that there's many people that I could spend this much time with and still have a really great relationship with. And it's because we continually create our relationship. And this is how it looks like. I'll get frustrated. She'll get upset. She'll come up to me and go, doesn't work how you spoke to me. I'll say, okay, probably doesn't. I was being frustrated. I was blaming you for something. We'll completely own it, hear each other, feel each other, hug each other. Just before I got really mad at her because she did something that upset me, she listened, felt me, the whole thing, then said, do you want a massage? Can I run you a bath? There's just this real love and care between us, and we're constantly creating it. And then some days she goes, I just have these moments where I don't even know if I want to be a friend anymore. It's like she chooses to be my friend every day or not. It's total choice. But it takes this two people going, I'm willing to, and I've never experienced a friendship like mine and Emily's because it's such freedom to be human together. And it's really, really great. I try to always use my better judgment. Yeah. Where do you draw the line? What would you be drawing the line? Oh, you said that to Trish. I can't see what she wrote. So I can't. It's too far gone now. Man, that sounds exhausting. It's actually quite freeing. Sarah Miller, when it doesn't align with my standards. Excuse me. This is what happens when you smoke. Now I've got this. Don't do that. Okay, my body is talking to me. So that is pretty much all there is for me to talk to tonight. Hello, Becky Bauer. Is there any closing comments and you'd like to say about this? I think we distinguished a pretty, I love this discussion. I think we distinguished really what it is to be human. And to be human is to miscommunicate. And, to be human is to blame and deny and to do things that don't work, but you create your relationship so you have the space and the agreements and the requests to move through these things and to acknowledge just how human you both are. And everyone's got different expressions of that. And Jess and I are going to do, I'd love to do, maybe next weekend. How about next week we could do the anger thing on Curious Here and you and I can do it together. Jess Palmer. Better than Corona. I don't know. I'm still probably going to get funny looks. Yes, you have to be willing to choose it every day. We have to be willing to choose each other. And it's actually okay if we don't choose each other too. It's also a choice. As long as it's not the Corona. Okay. So until next week, Jess, if you are up for it. Great, Sarah. I'm glad. That's what these discussions are for. They actually do assist me in getting things really clear. I don't think there are answers. I think there are explorations, and together, like just having us together in this little container, really exploring this freely. I'm always going to just do it in this group now. I just am. So thank you for being a part of it. I can't tell Jess, you're probably not on here anymore, so I'll text you. But next Monday, we'll try and do that anger and we'll explore anger. Sounds like a great one to explore. Thank you guys for all tuning in. I love having these discussions with you. Love to you. Thank you, Sky, Sarah, Marilyn, Haley, Trish, Jess, Chloe, anyone else that I may have missed, Lorna. Thanks for tuning in. And you guys have yourselves a great night until next time. Thanks, Trish.